Hey everybody, welcome to your daily update for SOL and BTC. Yep, pump, 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 pump. When's it going to stop? Is it going to stop? That's kind of the question. That's sort of what we're going to be looking at. See if we get some insights from charts and liquidity. So, firstly, we have not hit the daily front side target yet on SOL. However, we are approaching the monthly break level again, so there's a couple things in play. We've been breaking daily trends. Now, the moment you start to break a daily trend, it starts to seek out the hold level. The backside hold level is at 231, so that was our first target, and the front side is sitting at 238, so that's the secondary target for simply breaking one trend. You just the price thing basically is drawn like a magnet to a hold level. And the other thing we did during that time was we closed the month, which actually broke the monthly trend. And the monthly trend is being pushed up to around 240 something. We'll look at it in a sec. And when you break the monthly trend, you then aim for, once again, a hold level. But in this case, the hold level for the monthly has already been hit. It's already rejected. And so it's more likely we're going towards the break level of the monthly, because that would be the next stage of a trend break. But also we have already hit the break level in the same candle that broke the monthly. So it's a little bit, therefore, questionable exactly where we're going. So we might actually go through the hold level for the daily, and we may go through the break level for the monthly and find something bigger. So we'll look at that in a sec. But as far as where liquidity is currently sitting, the 1 day you can see it nicely goes up to 238. So everybody's stop losses and liquidations are in the path of where the candle wants to go. Don't you just love the way markets work? And to the downside, it's sort of down to that 214 area. So we'll see if we can get any short-term confluence around that when we look at the charts. On BTC, it's up into the 123, maybe 122, 124, somewhere in there. And then, of course, down to that 116, 115. If we look at it on the 7-day, 7-day screams that people are getting bullish. It screams that we've had a short squeeze. All the liquidity is to the downside, all the way down to 106 on BTC, and all the way down to sort of like 199. Upside targets haven't changed. And if we look at the 30 days, SOL's still got a few shorts it could take, which makes me believe that it could keep pushing up a bit. But it's interesting, we've got that big cluster of liquidity that starts just after 243, which is that monthly break level again. So whether we take another sweep at that break level and then roll over, also 249 and some of those 250 levels, there's resistance sitting in there. So I don't know, it looks like SOL might just keep on going up and take a little bit more from the top side, although we have had some short-term reversal patterns start to form just an hour or so ago. BTC just does not look like it has a reason to go much higher than where it is now, but it's got a hell of a lot of reason to go down, so I'd be just be cautious of that, because there's a big shift in the balance between SOL and BTC when you look at the SOL BTC chart, because we found that monthly support. So we might be heading into one of those situations again where BTC can actually perform really weakly, but SOL still hold up relatively well. But if it does go for a dive, it'll be back down to that sort of 200 area, that maybe as low as the 180s, 190s. But it's at this stage, it's looking like SOL is very strong and it wants to outperform BTC. So if we look at that from our lovely colorful direction, so you can see on SOL, the newer liquidity coming into the market is betting that it won't go up above 242, and they're sort of betting that it won't go down below 224. So that's quite easy could become the next range. But if they were to push it down to 224, it really doesn't take much then to push it down into all of the people who feel safe. So when you look at that on the higher time frame, most people think that 218 is a bottom. It's never going to go there again. However, everything sitting down there, if they were to push it down to 218, you can see the short-term liquidity would easily allow them to cascade it down lower and take that high time frame liquidity that's sitting there at 200. on the bright side, people are saying that, hey, we're absolutely safe if we're at 258. I would probably suggest you're not safe at 258 for a liquidation. So if you're already underwater in a short right now, and you're anywhere in the range of sort of 265 or down, you probably want to be, really conscious of finding a spot that you can hedge it long. If we do have a dip and that dip doesn't get you out, you're gonna want to be looking for a plan B, because there's a lot of liquidity that SOL could just start to take, and it doesn't take long for them to push it up, and then it grows and push it up again and so on, as you've seen in the last couple of days. But yeah, it does look like it's gearing up for at least a bit of a reversal. So let's have a look at these charts. And right, so as you can see, SOL BTC Strength on the daily has just pushed right through the range trend. That's really bullish, like stupidly bullish. It can open that new candle and pop back to any of these levels. Just it can reclaim the standard uptrend. It could bounce off the top of the range trend. It's actually breaking the downtrend today, so that trend there would move to the top side, and you can see it's so bullish that it's probably going to open the next one on the top side of that trend, unless something changes in the and that breaks it out of that sort of downwards channel there if it does that. So this is aiming to head up to that 20015 backside level, and it could reject off that, but most of the backside breaks we've had, so that's assuming this does break trend and it opens clearly on the right side of that new trend line. Most of the backside trend breaks we've had thus far have been very weak. They just haven't rejected heavily, and that kind of shows the market's quite bullish. Now the front side level is up here at 20625, so that's pretty much where it wants to go, and that could trigger a downturn. There's a whole bunch of other resistance levels that are sort of setting up around that area, but it's, at this stage, looking very bullish. If they want to mess with everybody, what they're going to do is they're just going to start probably around now, around a couple of hours before close, and they're just going to start to slowly draw this candle back down under the resistance, and then reject off the resistance and go lower. So, but at this stage, looking bullish. Need to watch for close. The weekly is looking good. It's bouncing off the backside of the trend. It's an unbroken trend, but if it does what it's doing, it'll break it if it stays like that for the week. And the monthly, and this is where a lot of it's coming from. If you've been watching these videos now for several days, weeks, you'll remember we had a really weak SOL because we were in a rejection of the monthly trend, but we've now landed on and closed above another range trend coming through here, as well as a range trend coming up there, and that 181 sort of level has become 18125-ish on strength, has become pretty much what it's bouncing off now. So it's gonna have a go now at attacking that trend again. And what it's going to want to do is it's going to want to try and push up to the monthly break level there, which is in the 22786. So you can imagine the strength that this thing's going to get if it starts to get up to that 22786 area. So it's looking pretty good. And a lot of that is driven by the 3-month closure that we had. So 3-month has also built a new trend. So that's coming through here, and we're pushing up basically to test that trend. So this must have been, where was that? There and there. Okay, yeah. And then we had some kind of, what is that bouncing off? There's something there that's bouncing off. Let's reclaim that. What, they're just bouncing off. It's built a hold level. Yeah, something. Okay. This is going to be the thing that bugs me all day now. Something had to create that reversal. And I mean, it may be the trend because it moved that to there, kind of bounced off it. Looks like it didn't quite. And came back up enough to reclaim that. And now it's going up again. So yeah, that's interesting, this one. It looks like it's not quite bouncing off the trends that it's creating, but still, it does look like that's what it's trying to do. So if this plays out, it should try to push through this trend, but it might have an initial touch rejection and then come back to that 17770 area. So if we are going to get any kind of retrace, it's probably going to be when this thing hits this trend for the first time and then possibly retraces back to the 1770. Okay, let's have a look at Bitcoin. Safety assets, sorry, I should say. So safety assets, they've done a nosedive. That's awesome. That's what we want to see. So on the daily, if it opens down here, it's going to potentially be below the break level. So it's basically just teasing us now with this local break level. So we've got a level there at 64.91. If it closes under 64.91, it could do a rejection off the break level and come down to try and attack the trend again, and to try and attack the other daily break, which is sitting just down here at about 64.67. Now, as long as it just keeps on doing that and going level by level by level, you'll see bolts pumping and pumping and pumping and pumping, and Bitcoin sort of going more sideways is basically the gist of it. So the other option to this, unfortunately, is that it can create a daily origin level, but it needs about 3 days to do it. So the next candle could get back up into the range, the next one could avoid the break, and the next one could bounce off it and go up to hit that weekly up there. Because if they create an origin on a daily here, it'll target a weekly up here. So, and they have now created this as 65.92. So if it tries to head back up to there to that weekly, it's probably going to hit that, and if it hits that, it's probably going to come back down here to test this weekly. So yeah, we may have one more swing in this thing. Okay, looking at the weekly, rejecting off trend, that's nice, pull down, we'll look at that in 3 days time. And the monthly, this is the one we really want to see break, but of course it's 29 days for that. So if this closes down, it loses that entire weekly uptrend that was through there, and then we come down to this 59 level. So, all right, totals. Totals on the daily. So this excludes BTC, so just dealing with the riskier stuff, your altcoins, and we're rejecting off the monthly. Sorry, daily. Get it right. Rejecting off the daily break level. So what we want to see over the next 3 days is this thing get above that break level, close, and bounce off it to try and target one of these upper levels. The 1.72, very tired. It's actually more tiring to trade in these kind of bullish markets because everything just moves so fast. You've got to stay on top of quite a bit, especially if you're scalping. Bring back the bear market when everyone's boring, no one likes crypto, and everything just predictably and slowly waddles along, and you can make a lot of money. Anyway, if we can get above this 1.7 and hard close it, then what's going to happen is we're going to run up here and we're going to run into this 1.72. Now the 1.72 has got confluence with trend over the next couple of days as well, and it could create a pretty solid rejection. So I'd just be watching for hitting that level. What we'll do is we'll put a alert on that. Crossing up. Done. And the likely targets, if that was to have a good solid rejection, is probably going to be back to, at worst case, this hold level down here at 1.6. The prior trend that was running through here and the range trend running through there, and sometimes these will just bounce off the wick, so that might be about 1.61. So just going to chuck an alert on that as well, just in case we start to dump. Looking at the monthly, it's pushing into resistance. It's not. I said this in the Discord to someone earlier. They were talking about Tesla, and it's like if you open up in a candle and you just immediately just push straight into resistance, it's not a good thing, because typically resistance is sells, and to keep the price in resistance, you got to be buying lots, right, to offset the sells. So the best way to break resistance is to wait until right near the end of the cycle of the resistance. So say the end of the monthly candle, it's about to close, last couple days, sneak over the top, and then open. And then every single algo out there goes, oh, geez, above the monthly trend, let's buy. So we're going up. So I do believe that this is probably going up long term, but it's a little bit bearish that it's pushed straight into it on open. So and whether it's just a rounding error or not, but it's pushed straight into it without actually coming down here and touching the range trend. So I'm just a little bit cautious on what that's telling us right now. The 3-month, similar type story, like it's heading towards that new topside resistance, but it never actually touched the support. So yeah, I've got an alert set on that. If we hit that, which is around that 1.74, then I'd sort of be expecting us to see 1.56. Okay. Yeah, looking more about totals. So the dollar is obviously turning to custard. You can tell that when you look at this chart, because the other charts are pushing into resistance, but if you actually offset it by the value of the DXY, you can see that this is going up. It's above the resistance, which just sort of says the dollar is turning to custard. It's not a hard close yet, so there's not too many insights to draw from this other than it's reclaimed some of that really old support levels there at 366.5. Overall, it's bullish for things like Bitcoin and just crypto in general, because it's, even if they themselves don't go up against other peers, they're just going up in value because the dollar is becoming worse, is kind of the gist of what that's saying. So right, on the 1 day, same thing, bounced off the top of the range trend, pushed through. So this is versus just normal US dollar type stuff, not value of dollar, but the total excluding stables is on the rise, so that's good. A close up here is not a hard close of the trend by any means, but it's getting above the levels. It was really important to get above this particular 3.79. I did not think we would do that today, that quickly, because that's a high time frame rejection level and it's just gone straight through it. So that's pretty bullish, but it isn't closed until it's hard closed with another yellow candle, so let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Okay, weekly's in a good spot. If you go back to what we talked about previously on the weekly, this is exactly the best thing that could be happening. So we'll see how that closes or whether they wrench it back. And monthly is again the one that's a bit tricky. The monthly, it's got a hold level target 3.5. It's pushing through the trends. Really, that should be reversing. The only thing is it's got 29 days to go. So, this could be the candle that takes us to whatever the final top is, and then a slow bleed down, and then when everyone thinks it's going to bounce, it doesn't bounce to a higher high, and then it's down and down and down. So maybe. The most healthy thing this could do right now is come down and test this 3.28 hard closed break and bounce off that and keep going up. That would be super healthy for long-term high time frame structure. Okay, Bitcoin on the daily. So we've hit the high time frame resistance pretty close to the pretty close to the exact price. We won't split hairs over 10A. What do we get to? Oh, yeah, it's pretty close. 120.826 was the target for the rejection. We got to 120.988, so we'll take that as a win. Okay, so really all we're looking for is for this to stay above these levels. If we can just stay up here for another 1 hour and 21 minutes, then if we do have a pullback to the trend or to retest any of these levels below, which really is totally possible, like you've got this hard close range trend coming through here at about 117,500. It could come down to that. We've got another one that's a way more bullish retest, like not technically hard closed as this range trend. And we've seen this kind of thing on the weekly before where you think you're out of a range, but there's two different trends, and one gets hard closed, e.g. the bottom one, top one doesn't get hard closed, and so then what it does is it reverts all the way down to the bottom one in the next candle. So yeah, I wouldn't say this is out of the woods yet, and you got to bear in mind that that's probably about the second to third biggest rejection level that Bitcoin could run into. It's only one level smaller than the one that caused the 2021 bear market. So just bear in mind it's not a little piddly line, that thing that it just ran into. And sometimes they sit on these lines for a while, and they do that because their big players want to unload, and then they just tank. And you can see that over here. So the first time it hit it with this candle, there was a bit more of a rejection than what there has been this time, that candle. Then they even went up above it just to get all of their stuff unloaded. And then the next thing we're down here, finding the equivalent support at 107. So, that was a pretty sizable fall. It's not showing as much rejection at the moment, but there is an hour to go. And it can also go back up and have another go at it, just like it did there, if it wants to do a bit of a blow off top. So yeah, this is real key moment stuff right now. So we've got a 5-day close today. 5-day close is on the resistance. So its level's slightly different. You're going to want to pretty much not go below 119.811.3, because then if you're staying above it, you've got a better chance of coming back up and hitting this range trend that's up here. And ever since it created this new range down the bottom here, that's kind of where it wants to go, is back up and retest that, because that would be that's basically what makes up your channel. So so if we can stay up long enough, the topside target for this would be about 123, and that lines up with some of that upper liquidity that's on the charts. So we've got another break level up there at about 124. We've got a trend that it could run into. There's lots of upper targets at the moment, but what's quite good is that we're also generating new hold levels, so that means more support. And if this was to spend 5 more days away from 110, so as long as it doesn't touch 110.568 in the next 5 days, then you have once again another high time frame support level formed. And this one down here at 107.400, that is also a high time frame support level now, because it's spent too much time with distribution not being able to get back to that level. So the only thing you'd really want to be careful of with this is that if you look at your established high time frame support levels, the closest one to the current price to the downside is 107.400. If this candle pulls back below this current level that it's really just teasing on now at 119811, and then rejects off that level, the thing to actually support it, if it goes too quickly, is going to be that 107.400 level, because it needs to spend at least 5 days for that 107.400 to become this 110.568. So it's just yeah yeah. So if they do a quick dump, it's going to be a big one. If they can hold up here, then the support will generate and the price can maintain itself. So looking at the 11-day, The 11-day is first touch rejection now. So you really just don't want to see this pull down under the trend, because that would be very bearish if it closed down under 118.207. It'd be bullish if it gets over 128.26 for the close, but that's a little bit bearish where it currently sits. Although this is a high time frame rejection one that was created within its own range, so these were a little bit, I'm actually still studying these, to be honest, the way that this type of structure gets created, because the first touch of the break level is within the range itself. And yeah, I think I've already sort of qualified that the second candle can't do it because there is no range until you've got two hard close candles, but sometimes the third candle can actually warrant the generation of high time frame resistance. And so this may just be a break level, it may be high time frame resistance brewing. If this rejects the support level, be this one. No, it wouldn't. No, that couldn't stop it. Actually, no, that could stop it. Yeah, that would stop it. And what it's trying to do, potentially, yeah, maybe not that one. So yeah, this could head down to 106. But we're talking about support and resistances now that are at the top of the chart. So if we get over these things, we moon. And I was looking at this and just going, where would it possibly go? And I think it's pretty much just a complete unknown where that would go based on that time frame. So let's see if we can find something bigger. Okay, 25-day. So 25-day shifted the trend a while back. It rejected off the trend. That's been our downwards pressure. It's landed on the backside of the prior range. It's bounced. So this actually has a hold level that it's pushing up into. So that's that 117. So recently we were talking about these 117 targets. So these were targets of the trend bounce. So it's getting back up into there. The previous trend untested was the one that was running through here. What's that sitting at? 113.6. So once it closes back up inside the previous trend, it may come back to retest 116, 113, 114 area and then keep heading up. It will also create its first interior downtrend there, which is that, but it's going to open on the right side of it. So, you know, this type of structure can just bounce. There's nothing to stop that from just opening on the other side of that trend and using this area of confluence to bounce. It can even flip this hold level into support if it really wants to, and then, you know, then you just don't see below 117, and off it goes up into the sky. We've got a previous trend there that hasn't been retested, and that's really high up at about 184. These types of trends don't have, you know, 100% certainty of being retested, but it happens a lot. So, okay, let's have a look at our 55-day. So 55-day is above trend. It's got a retest of a trend up there at about 138. That's probably more accurate. It's a backside bounce off this range. So as long as it can stay above these trends, it shouldn't have to come back to the front side. So that might be crisis averted and you don't have to see 94, 95. So that's a good close. So this could bounce and actually head up to all-time highs. 1 week, it's good. It's creating your hold level at 115. It's got a doji backside there at 117,800 as well. So there's a lot of confluence around that 117. That might be a shallow, you know, like a shallow retrace. And and then a very bullish bounce on the weekly close. If it stays this high, a very bullish bounce would be off this here. So basically these three parts would become an order block, and it could bounce off that what's that level? 119.907. Could bounce off that if it stays up there. So we've still got a weekly break. We haven't hit that yet. That's 124. I mean, bearishly speaking, it's got confluence with the trend. If we hit that level during the week, close under it, then the next week fails to reach it, then the hit of that will send us much lower. Like you'd have to find a weekly support, and that's going to be, it's going to be a problem. So there'd be one in here. It's 90. So that's not one. Try to see if there's any others. What's that? Well, that's one. Yeah, that's one. Where's that? 108. Oh, of course it is. 108, 350-ish. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, so I mean, that could round trip the entire range if it interacts poorly with that in the next week. So we'll wait and see how that happens. And this is the 3 months. So we spoke about this yesterday, but I just wanted to point out we've hit the backside of that trend now. It hit it perfectly in confluence with that high time frame daily resistance level, and as you can see, we're pulling back. So yeah, this could take us down a bit. So we'll just, it's a very tough time to be trading when you actually know that you're pretty much towards the end of what would be a traditional cycle, and you just, now's not the time to be super greedy. Now's the time to be conservative, just in case. Okay, let's have a look at the monthly. Monthly is not, see, the monthly is just doing everything that you would class as really unsustainable, like it's just pushing up from the wrong side of the trend. It never created the hold level. So this actually has to pretty much fully engulf the previous distribution candle and stay up there for this thing to become bullish. Outside of that, it's a blow off top, just brewing. Okay, let's look at SOL. So SOL has gained a hell of a lot of strength ever since the trend break, first trend break down here, which was on the 28th of September. Its aim has been to get back up into this range at the top here. It looks like it's going to close over that 231 backside level, and then the front side level is that 238 that we mentioned. So it's probably still going to be aiming for that. I don't actually think the daily is in control of this move. It's definitely something bigger because it's just moving too quickly, but and it's just going through trends. This was the Trump trend running through here at about 228. It's gone straight through that. That's good. This has always been a really polarized part of the chart, so if we can get above that, stay above that for the week, I think it's pretty damn bullish. We have a high time frame rejection area here at 249.543. So if it starts to approach that area, it's a good idea just to take a wee bit off the table, wait and see. You could close everything even if you wanted to, and just enter it again if it hard closes that level. The chances of it pushing through that level on the first touch is really, really low, unless it is actually sweeping liquidity. And if it does that, what it will do is it'll do it from the underside of the level. It'll push all the way through it, and then within the day or the next candle, it'll come back down to be underneath it again. The next one will form to the underside, potentially not touching it at all, and then there'll be some kind of pretty sizable retrace. So just keep that in mind. We've got these moves that go to like 286 and all that kind of stuff. We've got trend to trend moves to 300s, but it doesn't mean that like you can see SOL can move $50 in a retrace. It can move $20 in a retrace. So it doesn't mean that we don't get a retrace all the way back to say something like this hold down here at 212. We've got a reverse level here at like 210 that could be targeted, and we've got a origin support level at 200 that could be targeted. We've got 196, which has not actually bounced. So you've got and like if people see my pictures just scalping 15-minute charts, it's just the structure. It's things like these levels, because they exist on all time frames because they're all fractal, and price moves down, it rejects off something, it comes down, finds support, bounces, and I just have these little limit orders on high lev sitting on these things, and I just take them straight back to the first resistance, and then sometimes they travel all the way back to the top of the range again. But you know, why high leverage it, take a smaller move, you win every time, because these things always bounce. So okay, let's have a look at the first time. I should qualify that they always bounce the first time, not the second. That's not a promise. Okay, what's next? 5-day. So 5-day is generating high time frame range support. So that's 205. So much like Bitcoin, it's just got to spend 5 days without touching this. 5 days without touching this, 205 gets even stronger. It's generating a hold level around 220. That's very, very bullish. It's not a fully established hold level yet, so it can still become a reverse level. So you've got 1 and 1. It can roll over, it can come down, it can re-engulf it to the downside on the next candle, and then basically it becomes a reverse level. So just yeah, it takes 5 days for any of this to really become set in stone. This is targeting 242, and it's trying to see if that's had. It hasn't had an interior trend break, so something else is driving this. It hasn't bounced off the backside of the established range trend. Yeah, so it's just kind of pumping. There's nothing. Probably is something. I just can't see it just now. It's technically it's a retest of that. No, that's been retested. Don't know what's driving that, which is always a worry. It could just be the fact it never actually broke the trend. So the price came from above 2 compressed trends. So it could just be getting drawn back up because it's nearing the end of the candle close. That's normal behavior. You see that a lot. So they can only stay below a trend for so long before the bungee cord rule kicks in. Okay, like this. Great example. Straight to the 11-day. 11-day just did that big dive over the last 11 days, and guess where it's going? It's just bungee cording back up above the range trend that it tried to push through. Yeah, good luck with that. That was not a sustainable dive. Now this does have break. Yeah, this does have some resistance there at 243, which kind of lines up with the monthly break level retouch. And it hasn't had first touch rejection of the topside trend yet, which would be, funnily enough, 249. So you can see these, like 243 and 249 might become critical areas that it either needs to close over or it's going to reject off, right? So that's just more confluence through different time frame views of the same thing. And there's our 243. What's this 25-day candle? There's our 243 level. So it's running through here. We had a touch rejection, failed to get there, create the big dump. And so this is not technically the time that it would create a big dump. That was this touch here back in January. And this time, this level will be weaker, and it's got a much better chance of actually getting over that, but still it's not in a good place, because really you would want it to be over the top of that by close, which pretty much means moving up $11 to be over 243.048 before close. If it does that, damn, that's bullish. The first thing it'll do is probably pump and try to smash through this 260 level. The November, December. Then there's a questionable level here at 264. I say questionable because this December candle is not a full 25-day range. So this is where we get into the weird things about charting, where that 264 level may or may not get respected, depending on whether it does exist on some other time frame. So yeah, that's looking pretty free. free to move. Okay, what do we got going on over here? So we had our creation, we had our first touch, we had our big dump. We're heading back up. We're not breaking trends. We're above all the range trends. I mean, a candle like this, if they flip bearish, can do a full retrace back to these trends because it started on the wrong side of it. Right, so this is the problem with seeing both sides of the chart. You've just seen an 11-day time frame that dived a trend and hit a level and then did a complete retrace back to be above the trend. So the obligation of this candle is actually to do the opposite. The obligation is to come all the way down. Now it hasn't done it, but it could do it on the next one. So there's still plenty of things that could dump this market if they want to. It's just which time frame's in control, and there must be something bigger than 55 days pushing up for this thing not to be pulling down. Okay, looking at the weekly. Weekly's traveling towards where we want it. We want to see a weekly close over 237 500, and what we really want to see is a weekly engulfment. We want to see a hold level, right? Because we've bounced off that 204794 prior high time frame resistance. So if we can push up and create a hold level, then the resistance is planning to build a new range to the upside. So that's pretty good. There's a couple of strange levels in here, probably just to keep an eye on, which is sort of like that 247, 253, 256. There's a doji back here, which is a real pain because this is indecision. It could mean that this is a continuous line of distribution, in which case we're going to reject off 256.94. And that would then mean that we need to come back down. What we do have though on the weekly here is not only these 200 levels that you see here, but this weekly close will actually end up creating 194 as a high time frame support level. So the high time frame support is just moving up and up and up, which is good. 2 weeks on target. Pity it didn't get a greedier entry for that 2 week, but it's on its way. And this would be what's that? Yes, this is something older. Yeah, so this is that to the cent rejection we had off that 253.248, which is based off this. So these patterns are so important. If you want to identify the tops and bottoms ranges, you've got to start to see these when you look at charts, and obviously work high time frame down, and you can build boxes, like you can build ranges within ranges within ranges to work out where you're actually at, and you can find the bottom of a range and work out which time frames mastering it and so on. But this that's running across here, rejected, failed to get to it. When it did get to it, huge dump, because that's what they do, up to here, this touch of it to the cent, smaller dump. So these are the ones, so this dump often grabs liquidity. You can't do like 100x shorts and stuff on this dump because it'll often grab liquidity because it's going to be a bigger move. This dump you can generally do very high leverage on with really tight stop losses because it'll be a secondary dump, and like in this case that level was the 3rd decimal place, so it got to the actual price went to 253.429 versus 253.428. Right, so you could 100x that and just been riding it all the way down. So if it approaches that again now, that level's kind of done its job. It hasn't actually broken any trend. In fact, it created a stronger trend because that trend wasn't there until the close of that rejection candle. So that level probably won't stop it again. But that being said, 264 is one of those levels, right? And it hasn't had this equivalent touch yet. So yeah, there might be a rejection off the top of that box, and definitely worth taking profits if you get towards 264 on the higher time frame. So let's have a look. Oh, alerts. 1 month is nearly hit that break level. So you can see what happens there. And we have this monthly trend up here at 246. So it's also possible, because that's the first shift of that trend, that it hits that and creates some kind of rejection. If it was to reject, it would probably go where? Let's see. We haven't hard closed that. I mean, it could go to 204, but it's not a hard closed level. Yeah, don't know. It's probably not going to come all the way down there. Best shot would probably be a dive of 204 and then a bounce back up. Okay. What do we got here? And this is the big one. Okay, so the 3-month level, I'm just going to get, I know I went over this yesterday, but maybe some people haven't seen yesterday's video. This level has not technically hit the backside hold yet. So you almost want it to go back to 204. The trend for this is up around that 260 area. So this is actually more confluence that what it's potentially going to do is push to the back of the trend first for a rejection of the trend. And that would mean you could see SOL go as high as the 260s and then potentially have a $60 pullback all the way back to that level to then bounce up to a new all-time high. So that would sort of be my caution range at the moment. Is I don't think I know we're going to go to things like 286, definitely, because the moves are in play on things like the 18-week, but it's an 18-week play, so everything else can bounce around inside of that. And I think this one does look like it might head up to that 260-ish trend and then potentially pull back down to trigger the backside of this range, and then that'll be pretty awesome, because I've never seen what happens when you hit the backside of a 3-month order block. I've seen what 3-month candles can do by themselves, but this is a proper front side backside. So this here typically creates a violent, substantial move to the upside. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. All right, let's have a look at some of these others. So SUI managed to get back up inside the daily range. It's hit the daily hold. It's rejecting off the daily hold. The interior trend will shift to the top side of that today. Yeah, it's kind of done its job. This is what I mean by things have just powered through these backside holds. They just didn't stop it, which sort of implies something big is in play. If I had to just put a topside target out there for SUI, I'd probably say about 4.3, which would be a retest of the broken range trend, which makes all of this a big accumulation deviation. So, but there are other levels that are going to be problematic along the way, like this one here at about 3.89. That'll be problematic, and it's still got to get over. The break level at 3.6861. This level is probably going to be problematic. There's a lot of stuff that could stop this, but so 3.82s, 3.89s, 3.68s. That's all assuming that it actually breaks through this hold level. So that's been a good trade so far. Like entered down here on the high time frame support, generated, tapped, go. So took TPs a long way, just at the back sides and here at the front side, and I think I've still got a little bit of the position left open on that one. Okay, NA. This was always our riskiest one because it's pushing. In the bigger picture, it's bouncing off a 3-month trend, but it's pushing into a 1-month hold. But it's going okay. Trend will shift today to the top side. Possibly a bit of a negative shift, really, because the wick is so long on the top of the candle. But if it can stay up inside the prior range and reclaim that range at 6293, then that's good. It'll have something in really close proximity that it can bounce off to try and break the trend. This has still got a lot of room to go, really. Like, just looking at the clear and obvious range trends on the daily, that 76 level, or 74 will be a range retest of the broken range there, and 76 if it pushes up through it. And as long as it sort of stays above 59, 60 cents, then it's looking like it's going to have another go. Although if the market turns bearish and that 1 month hold kicks in, this is one that could dive, back down. So, yeah. World Liberty Finance. To be honest, should have just been trading this thing all day, all week. Like, it's just bouncing off hold levels. It's just targeting resistance levels. It's like they don't want to liquidate anybody on this. They're just moving algorithmically. So this is going to shift trend today to the top side. Yeah, it could pull back to the previous trend, probably bounce again. Now it's tested that hold level of the September 28 candle. The next trend break will lead to the break level, which is 22 cents. So it's tested the backside. It's 22 point. It would head to here on next downtrend break, which is your 2207, and then the aim of it is to then try to target that upper hold after the break, which is 2249, and the high time frame resistance level on this is all the way up here at 2332. So it had its initial hit, and then another tap, and then another tap to grab the liquidity, and then the big dump, and then the next time it hits that, it may have a pullback, but there's a few ways they can do that. They can hard close a candle up between 2249 and 2332, and then they can tap that. It'll reject, but it would have reversed the hold level to support, and then it can go up again. So that's a very plain. It's really just plain nice. You just look at the levels on that thing. It just plays nice. Okay. ZEUS. If this is gonna pop, it's probably going to be one of the last tokens to pop, because the opposite's basically happening. It is accumulating underneath high time frame support and generating a new level in a way that is kind of bullish, because you look at the volume down here and they're generating a lot down here. So if it gets above these levels, then yeah, it can pump. But yeah, I don't know. I don't like it when I see this. So we'll see. There would be, for this to be in a position to escape this area, it probably takes another, well, you have to end this week. I mean, you could end this week really bullish and go up above these levels. Boom, boom, done. So if it starts to pump now, great. If it doesn't go up by the end of the week, then it probably takes a minimum of another 2 weeks for this thing to actually be able to do much. Cook. Pop. So there you go. And this is what you got to be conscious of when you're talking about high time frame supports. So support was built here to here. It was tested here, came up, had a bit of a retrace, and then just boom, shoots up. And when it shoots up, it goes straight through a break level, straight up to the next hold level. All right, straight up to the next trend. So there was someone mentioned in the Discord today about how some levels just aren't getting respected at all, and it's usually because when you look at this chart, there's things on this chart that are of this time frame, and there's things on this chart that are of a higher time frame, represented by this lower time frame. And so this area down here at 10 cents is one of those. It is effectively like having a weekly level on a daily chart. So none of this stuff really matters, because it's just daily stuff. So when this thing kicks off, it kicks off a move that is more respected as far as a weekly move. It's probably, what do we got there? Yeah, so you didn't have any hold levels on the weekly, so it just all you really had was some kind of trend. So it was just going to go straight to it. So that's that one. So as far as what happens now, it's either going to hard close, retrace to one of these lower levels, and then go again, or it's going to go and break the break level there. It's probably fair to say that it is heading towards 19 cents at a minimum, this area up here. And I don't think, or maybe that, or 18 cents. 18 cents or 19 cents would be the next target levels for that if it gets up above the trend and hits the 16-cent break. But at this stage, it's battling with the hold. Okay. What's next? Hype. Okay. Hype on the weekly, just want to see it create a hold level, close above that $50 area there. You want to see it close above 50.84. Now, if it doesn't close above 50.84, but it has closed away from the high time frame support, what you then want to do is you want to, like, if it does, there's some bearish news or whatever, and it dumps, then you'd want to look at an entry at this 52.52 or less. And that area there would be really, really, really good. It might come down to try and retest the range trend as well. So this could be one of those instances where it dives the support for liquidity down to the range trend. You enter on the range trend with the expectation that it will end up coming back up above that support within a weekly period, and then it would just continue up into the sky. So there could be a really good trade coming on hype. It's that testing stuff. Okay, ASTER, love ASTER, baby. Yeah, that's, should have done that in an accent, hey. So this has hit its hold level. So trade's kind of done on this. So this was pretty much a bounce of a range trend, and it's done. So if this closes up over the top of 1.8-ish, it could open on the top side of this down range trend that's here, and then it's probably going to target the $2 area, maybe the $2.10 area. So, or the backside of the standard trend. It's up there, about $1.90 something. So this is really, really new, and there's been a lot of discussion in our Discord around this token. There's not a lot of information on it. You can't just, like, there's enough here almost to trade the daily, which is what I've done. But really, you'd probably want to stick to 4-hour or lower. Very soon, there will be 2-day structure on this token, and there'll be a trend that's a bit lower down probably for that. But at this stage, really just looking to see if it closes over that 1.80 area. What do we got? ENA, just a different view. So that's effectively the range for ENA. So 5562 up to 8322. It may not get there because that's what, but it should at least get to 50%. This is what traders always, go on about, like the 50%, the 50%, the 50%, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, typically speaking, it should at least get there. Even if it's going to create a lower low, it should get there. And if it reclaims that, it should get there. And then if it claims that, then it can go up. So, but it's that'll be a trend break today. Wick's kind of long. It'll shift to the top side. What time frame is this? Yeah, daily. Oops. I think we already covered this actually, I'm sorry. You may get a pullback 60 cents. We'll see how that goes. Right. It's already pulling back, isn't it? So the key level for us to get out of was this level through here on the 4 hour. That's happened, hard close, not retested. Probably will go back and retest that. So yeah, you may get it down and then an up. So that's doing its thing. I've got so many views of ENA because it's one of those ones where I'm making money on it, but I'm just highly cautious of the fact that it's in this. So it can, this thing can actually go down to 39 cents. So very, very cautious of that one. Okay, ETH. So I've just got ETH on the daily so far, but pretty much ETH on the daily it's above trend. So the next candle can break a trend. It's hit its break levels. Not much else shifts today on this, but your next break level's up there at 4642. And your high time frame resistance is not to get to about that 4793 area. So I'd probably expect some kind of rejection if it gets all the way through to that. But it's reclaiming the support of that 4217 area. So, that's good. And what else? There was Tesla. Someone wanted me to have a quick look at Tesla. So I don't follow Tesla too much, but pretty much there's two main trends I identified when I did a bit of a buy request video for somebody a while back. One of them was the monthly trend, which is the one it's rejecting off now, and the other one was the 6-month trend at the top. So basically it's pushed its way up above a 6-month trend. It's pushed its way up above a 6-month break. It's hit the monthly trend and it's pulling back. So, when it comes to whether you, like, if you're just holding this because you believe it's going to go up forever, then, so be it. If you've got a man crush on Elon or whatever, so be it. But when it comes to just classic plain old TA, still going up. When it comes to classic old TA, monthly trends are not to be looked at lightly, and they're generally a good idea to take some profit or hedge positions when you get to them. The only thing I'd say in this case is because it's such a perfect clean bounce off the top side of the 6-month break, this pullback on the monthly may reverse once it finds some kind of reasonable support, which could be that 394 level. Could be that. 394. And then it might have a go at heading up to that $500 area to have a go at that 6-month trend. So, yeah, I don't really, like I said, I don't really follow this in huge detail, but hey, look, Solana. Let's hit that monthly. Yeah, but that's basically what I see from that. And if it holds this up for the next 20 minutes, that means ASTER's going to close in a good spot too. Have you ever noticed the difference, just incidentally, now at the end of the video, have you ever noticed the difference between a bullish market and a bearish market is when you get to them within that last sort of hour of close, they start either pushing the price up to put it in a good position, or they start pushing it down to be in a bad position. Pretty much like you get 23 hours of who cares noise, followed by 1 hour of I now know what they're trying to do. So, and the same thing applies fractally to lower time frames. You can have a 4-hour candle that means nothing, and then in the last 5 minutes, boom, off it goes. So anyway, that's us for today. Like, subscribe. We got over 500 members. That's cool. Or subscribers or whatever. Don't know really what that does, but you can, the next goal is 1,000, and let's see if we can get to 1,000, and then to infinity and beyond, which is out of some kind of cartoon. All right, catch you later.